Today I want to talk about something that quietly shapes our lives, something so pervasive that we often don't even notice, the great illusion. It's how money, time, and ego, often without our awareness. But what if I told you that everything we think we're chasing might just be a mirage? We live in a world where the pursuit of success, wealth, and recognition is ingrained in us from a young age. From the moment we step into school, we're conditioned to aim high, work hard, and achieve more. Society paints a picture of success that revolves around status, material possessions, and accolades. The narrative is clear. The more you have, the better off. So we embark on the pursuit completely, the cheapest year that we believe will bring us happiness, fulfillment, and purpose. But what if this pursuit is nothing more than an illusion? Our commitment to success enabled us to fulfill our potential. But what if this pursuit is nothing more than an illusion? What if, in our race to it, we've mistaken motion for meaning? Think about how often we equate our value with a high-paid job, a fancy car, a big house. These are the markers of a life well lived, or so we're told. Yet how many people reach these milestones only to feel empty? They have everything they thought they wanted, but something still feels missing. The pursuit, it seems, doesn't always lead to purpose. In fact, it often takes us further away from. This is because we confuse external success with internal fulfillment. We chase after things that look good on the outside, but fail to nourish the inside. The pursuit of money, for example, is often driven by the belief that financial security will bring peace of mind. And while money can provide comfort and opportunities, it cannot fill the void that comes from a lack of purpose. Similarly, we seek recognition and approval, hoping that the applause of others will validate our existence. But external validation is fleeting, and the emptiness it leaves behind often makes us crave it. The irony is that while we're busy chasing these goals, we often neglect the things that truly matter. We sacrifice relationships, health, and personal growth on the altar of ambition. We spend countless hours working overtime to climb the ladder of success, only to realize that the ladder was leaning against the wrong wall. And in our obsession with achieving more, we lose sight of why we started in the first. Purpose, unlike the pursuit, isn't about acquiring or achieving. It's about being. It's about aligning our actions with our values and finding meaning in what we do. Purpose gives us a sense of direction, but it doesn't necessarily come with a big paycheck or a prestigious title. Sometimes, purpose is found in the quiet, helping a friend in need, creating something that brings joy to others, or simply being present with the people we love. The challenge is that purpose requires introspection, and introspection is uncomfortable. It forces us to confront our true desires, our fears, and the possibility that we've been chasing the wrong thing. It's much easier to stay busy with the pursuit than to pause and ask ourselves what really matters. Without this pause, we risk living a life that looks successful but feels unfulfilled. The pursuit isn't inherently wrong. It's human nature to strive for more. The problem arises when the pursuit becomes an end in itself, disconnected from it. When we focus solely on the chase, we become trapped in a cycle of wanting and acquiring, never stopping to appreciate what we already have, or questioning why we're running in the first. Purpose, on the other hand, grounds us. It gives our efforts meaning and transforms even the smallest actions into something significant. When we act with purpose, we're not just working toward a goal, we're living in alignment with who we are. And in that alignment, find a sense of peace that no amount of money, recognition, or achievement can provide. So the next time you find yourself caught up in the pursuit, take a moment to reflect. Ask, am I chasing because it truly matters to me, or because I've been told it should matter? Am I pursuing this goal because it aligns with my values, or because it aligns with society's expectations? The answers to these questions can help you shift from a life of endless pursuit to a life filled with purpose. And when you live with purpose, the journey becomes as meaningful as the destination. Time is the most precious resource. Unlike money, it cannot be earned back once it's spent. It flows continuously, indifferent to our desires. And every moment that passes is a moment we can never reclaim. Yet, despite its irreplaceable nature, we often treat time as if it were limitless. We waste it, trade it, and fill it with things that do not truly matter, only to realize too late that we cannot buy back what has been lost. Time, in many ways, is the true currency of life. How we choose to spend it ultimately defines the quality of our existence. Think about how often we say, I don't have time. It's one of the most common phrases in today's world, often used to justify why we're too busy to prioritize the things that actually mean the most. But the truth is, we all have the same 24 hours in a day. The question isn't whether we have enough time, but how we're choosing to spend. When we say we don't have time, what we're really saying is that something else is important. Our calendars and schedules are a reflection of our priorities, whether we like to admit it or not. Yet, the world we live in doesn't make. We are constantly bombarded with distractions. Emails, notifications, endless to-do lists, and the pressure to always be productive. Busyness has become a badge of honor, a status symbol that makes us feel important. But busyness is not the same as living meaningfully. It's entirely possible to be busy every moment of the day and still feel unfulfilled, because being busy is often just a way to fill the emptiness we feel inside. It's a distraction from asking ourselves the harder question. Am I spending my time on what truly matters? Am I living in alignment? Time, unlike money, cannot be saved for later. You can't deposit unused hours into a bank and draw them out when you need them. Every second that passes is gone forever. This realization can be sobering, but also liberating. If we understand that time is finite, we can begin to treat it with the respect it deserves. We can become more intentional about how we spend, focusing on activities and people that bring us joy, growth, and fulfillment. Reach for more patience. One of the most important lessons about time is that it's not just about productivity. Yes, time can be used to achieve goals and accomplish tasks, but its greatest value lies in how it allows us to connect with ourselves, with others, and with the world around us. Spending time with loved ones, engaging in meaningful conversations, and simply being present in the moment are some of the most valuable ways we can use Yet, these are often the first things we sacrifice when life gets busy. There's also an element of fear when it comes. Many of us are afraid of wasting it, which leads us to overcommit, overschedule, and overwork. We pack our days with so many activities that we leave no room for rest, reflection, spontaneity. The truth is, downtime is not wasted time. It's in the quiet moments that we often gain the clarity and perspective we need to live. Time spent doing nothing can sometimes be the most productive time of all, as it allows us to recharge and realign with our purpose. Another way to think about time as a currency is to consider its return on investment. Just as we evaluate how we spend money based on the value it brings, we should evaluate how we spend our time. Are we investing our time in activities that enrich our lives, or are we spending it on things that drain us? Are we using our time to grow, learn, and connect, or are we simply passing it without much thought? These are questions worth asking because they can help us shift from simply spending time to investing it wisely. Ultimately, the way we use our time is a reflection of what we value. If we value relationships, we'll make time for the people we care about. If we value personal growth, we'll dedicate time to learning and self-improvement. If we value rest and balance, we'll prioritize activities that nourish our minds and bodies. Time is not something we can control. How we spend it is entirely up. So this is how I came to get to number 5 for myself in the big 5, was basically at the end of the day, time is not just a currency, it's life itself. Every moment we spend is a moment of our lives that we're giving away. The question is, are we spending it on the things that truly matter? When we start to see time as the most valuable resource we have, we begin to live more intentionally, making choices that lead to a life that is not just full, but life is full of illusions, stories we tell ourselves, beliefs we inherit, and expectations we internalize. Without question, these illusions often shape how we see the world, and more importantly, how we see ourselves. They are like invisible scripts guiding our choices, keeping us trapped in patterns of behavior that may not. One of the greatest challenges we face is recognizing these illusions for what they are, breaking free from them to live a life of authenticity, purpose. Now, one of the most pervasive illusions is the idea that our worth is tied to what. From a young age, we are conditioned to believe that success equals value. We are praised for good grades, rewarded for accomplishments, and taught that our identity is defined by our. As adults, this illusion evolves into the belief that a high-paid job, a prestigious title, or material wealth is the ultimate measure of success. While achieving goals can bring satisfaction, the problem lies in believing that these external markers are the sole source of our worth. This illusion keeps us in a constant state of striving, chasing after accomplishments that often fail to bring the lasting fulfillment. Another common illusion is the pursuit of happiness through materialism. Modern society bombards us with messages that equate happiness with possessions. We are told that the latest gadget, the bigger house, or the luxury vacation will bring us joy, While these things can provide temporary pleasure, they rarely offer the deep, lasting contentment we crave. The illusion lies in the belief that happiness comes from the outside, when in reality it is something we cultivate from within. The illusion lies in the belief that happiness comes from within. True happiness is not about acquiring, it's about appreciating what we already have and finding meaning in our daily life. The illusion of control is another powerful force that shapes our decisions and creates unnecessary. We often believe that if we plan carefully enough, work hard enough, or think far enough ahead, we can control the outcomes of our life. This illusion is comforting because it gives us a sense of security. But life is inherently unpredictable. Truth is, we cannot control everything, and clinging to this illusion often leads to anxiety, frustration. Breaking this illusion means embracing uncertainty and learning to adapt rather than trying to force out. It's about focusing on what we can control, our actions, attitudes, and response, and letting go of the. And let control means taking responsibility and giving ourselves over to what everyone else. Ego also plays a significant role in perpetuating illusion. It tells us that we must protect our image, seek validation, and prove our worth to others. Ego-driven illusions can lead us to prioritize appearances over competition over connection, and self-interest over collective well-being. The illusion of ego is perhaps the most insidious because it feels personal. It's tied to our identity and sense of self. Breaking this illusion requires humility and self-awareness. It means recognizing that we are not defined by our success, nor are we in constant competition. Letting go of the ego allows us to see ourselves and others more clearly, fostering deeper connections in a more authentic way of living. Take number 4, vegan preacher or vegan preach. Breaking the illusion is not easy. These beliefs and patterns are deeply ingrained, often reinforced by societal norms and cultural expectations. The first step is awareness, acknowledging that these illusions exist and questioning their validity. Why do we equate our worth with our... Why do we believe that happiness comes from external sources? Why are we so afraid to let go of control? Asking these questions opens the door to a new perspective. The process of breaking free from illusions also requires courage. It means challenging long-held beliefs and stepping into... It might mean walking away from a career that looks successful on the outside but feels empty. It could mean redefining what happiness looks like, even if it doesn't align with societal expectations. It may mean letting go of the need to prove ourselves and learning to accept who we are, flaws and all. Ultimately, breaking the illusion is about finding truth, the truth of who we are, what we value, and what truly matters in life. It's about living with intention rather than simply following the scripts handed to us. When we break free from illusions, we open ourselves to a life that is more authentic, meaningful, and fulfilling. We stop chasing after the things we think we should want and start embracing the things that genuinely bring us joy. Life becomes richer when we see through the illusions that once held us captive. We realize that our worth is inherent, our happiness is within reach, and our ability to adapt is far greater than we imagine. Breaking the illusion is not about escaping reality. It's about seeing reality for what it truly is and choosing to live it fully. Living authentically is one of the most liberating and fulfilling ways to approach life. It means being true to who you are, aligning your actions with your values and embracing your uniqueness without fear of judgment. Yet in a world that constantly pressures us to conform and fit into predefined molds, authenticity can feel like a radical act. It requires self-awareness, courage, and a willingness to shed the masks we often wear to gain acceptance. While challenging, living authentically allows us to experience life in its fullest and most meaningful. At its core, authenticity begins with self-awareness. To live authentically, you must first understand who you are, your values, passions, strengths, and even your fears and weaknesses. This process requires introspection and honesty, asking yourself difficult questions about what truly matters, what brings you joy, what principles do you want to live by, what kind of legacy do you hope to leave behind. These questions help uncover your true self, the person beneath the layers of societal expectations and external. However, self-awareness alone is not enough. Living authentically also demands the courage to act on that, even when it's uncomfortable or unpopular. It means making choices that reflect your values and priorities, rather than succumbing to external pressures or the fear of judgment. For instance, Choosing a career path that aligns with your passions, rather than one that simply offers prestige or financial reward, is an act of authenticity. Similarly, setting boundaries in relationships to protect your well-being, even if it disappoints others, is a courageous step toward living true to yourself. One of the greatest obstacles to authenticity is the desire for acceptance. As social beings, we crave connection and approval, and often this can lead us to suppress parts of ourselves that we fear others might reject. We wear masks to fit in, to appear successful, or to avoid conflict. But these masks come at a cost. They create a disconnect between who we are and how we present ourselves to the world, leading to feelings of dissatisfaction and even alienation. The primary reason why so many people pretend to belong to everyone, the irony is that true connection with others can only happen when we allow ourselves to be seen as we truly are. Authenticity fosters deeper, more meaningful relationships because it is rooted in honesty and vulnerability. Another challenge to living authentically is the influence of societal expectation. From an early age, we are told who we should be, how we should act, and what success looks like. These expectations can be suffocating, pushing us to pursue goals or adopt lifestyles that don't align with our true self. Breaking free from these expectations requires questioning the narratives we've been taught and giving ourselves permission to define success and happiness on our own terms. It's about shifting from external validation. Authenticity is not about perfection. It's not about always knowing exactly who you are or having everything figured out. In fact, part of living authentically is embracing the messiness and uncertainty of life. It's about being honest with yourself and others, even when you're struggling or uncertain. It's about owning your mistakes and learning from them rather than pretending they never happened. Authenticity is a journey, not a destination, and it evolves as we grow. Living authentically also requires letting go of comparison. In today's hyper-connected world, it's easy to fall into the trap of comparing ourselves to others, measuring our worth against their achievements, possessions, or appearances. But comparison is the enemy of authenticity. It distracts us from our own path and diminishes the unique qualities that make us who we are. Instead of comparing, we can focus on gratitude for what we have and pride in the progress we've made on. Even the rewards of living authentically are profound. When you live in alignment with your true self, you experience a deep sense of inner peace. Your decisions feel more meaningful because they come from a place of integrity. You attract people and opportunities that resonate with your values, creating a life that feels rich and purposeful. Most importantly, you cultivate self-respect and confidence because you know you are living in a way that honors who you are. Living authentically doesn't mean there will be moments of doubt, resistance, and even loss as you shed the layers that no longer serve. But the freedom and fulfillment that come from being true to yourself far outweigh the challenge. Authenticity allows you to live a life that is not only true to who you are, but also deeply connected to others and the world around you. In the end, living authentically is about choosing to live your truth. It's about showing up as yourself, embracing your imperfections, and having the courage to pursue a life that aligns with your deepest values. It's not always the easiest, but it is undoubtedly the most rewarding. By living authentically, you create a life that feels genuine, a life that is rich, meaningful, and deeply fulfilling. The ego is a subtle yet powerful force that often dictates how we see ourselves, how we interact with others, and how we measure our success. It tells us that our worth is tied to external validation, that we must achieve, acquire, and impress to matter. The ego is a master of illusion, creating a trap that can leave us constantly striving, yet never satisfied. While it can drive ambition and success, unchecked, it can also rob us of authenticity, fulfillment, and genuine connection. But the ego thrives on comparison. It pushes us to measure ourselves against others, convincing us that our value depends on being better, smarter, or more successful than the people around us. We compare our homes, careers, appearances, and even our relations. But the comparison game has no finish line. There will always be someone who has more, does more, or instead of celebrating our own journey, the ego keeps us focused on what we lack. Many times, the fear is the deterrent. The illusion is that we must compete to prove our worth. But in reality, this mindset only leads to insecurity and dissatisfaction. Another trap of the ego is its obsession with control and perfection. The ego tells us that we must have everything figured out, that failure is unacceptable, and that mistakes diminish our value. This can lead to a fear of vulnerability, where we avoid taking risks or showing our true selves for fear of judgment. We wear masks to appear successful, confident, or invulnerable, even when we feel far. The irony is that the pursuit of perfection often creates distance between us and others because authenticity, the willingness to be seen as we truly are, is what fosters genuine. Ego also convinces us that our identity is tied to our achievements and possessions. It whispers that we are only as good as our job title, our bank account, or the recognition. While achieving goals and being successful can bring satisfaction, the ego turns them into the sole measure of our worth. It blinds us to the intrinsic value we have simply as human, independent of what we accomplish. This can leave us chasing external markers of success, such as awards, promotions, or applause, in a never-ending quest for validation. But external validation is fleeting. It doesn't provide the deep sense of fulfillment. And one of the most deceptive aspects of the ego is its ability to masquerade as true confidence comes from self-awareness and self-acceptance. But ego-driven confidence is fragile. It relies on constant reinforcement from the outside world. If we don't receive the praise or recognition we're looking for, our self-worth can plummet. Ego-driven confidence makes us defensive, unable to accept criticism, and quick to protect our image at all costs. It pushes us to seek approval from others instead of cultivating approval from within. The good news is that we don't have to be trapped by our ego. The first step is recognizing its presence and the illusions it creates. When we become aware of how the ego influences our thoughts and acts, we can start to question its narrative. Why am I comparing myself? Why do I feel the need to prove myself? Is this pursuit truly meaningful to me, or am I doing it to impress others? These questions allow us to shift our focus from external validation to internal alignment. The antidote to the ego trap is humility and authenticity. Humility doesn't mean thinking less of ourselves. It means recognizing that we are no more or less valuable than anyone else. It's about letting go of the need to prove our worth and embracing our humanity, flaws and all. Authenticity, on the other hand, is the courage to be ourselves without the masks and pretenses the ego demands. How lucky are you that I submitted to prove ourselves without the masks and pretenses the ego demands? It allows us to connect with others on a deeper level and to live in alignment with our values rather than society. Letting go of ego also means redefining success. Instead of measuring it by external metrics like wealth, status, or recognition, we can measure it by how aligned we are with our purpose, how much joy and meaning and how deeply we connect with others. True success is not about what we achieve, but about who we become in the process. It's about living a life that feels rich from the inside out, not one that simply looks impressive on the outside. The ego will always be a part of us. It's human nature. But when we recognize its voice and understand its traps, we gain the power to step outside of it. We can stop striving to prove ourselves and start living authentically, driven not by the need to impress, but by the desire to live a meaningful and fulfilling life. And in doing so, we free ourselves from the ego trap and step into the truth of who we really are. Success is one of the most powerful and subjective words in our lives. From a young age, we are taught to associate success with tangible, high grades, prestigious jobs, financial wealth, and societal recognition. The world defines success for us through narrow metrics: how much we earn, how far we climb, and how many accolades we collect along the way. But what if this definition of success what if the pursuit of conventional success comes at the cost of our well-being, relationships, and sense of purpose? To live a truly fulfilling life, we must challenge and redefine what success means to us. For many, success is a checklist imposed by societal expectations. Go to the best schools, land a high-paying job, buy a house, and retire comfortably. While there's nothing inherently wrong with these milestones, the problem arises when they become the sole measure of our value. We often find ourselves chasing these benchmarks not because they resonate with our inner desires, but because we've been conditioned to believe they should. And in the process, we risk losing touch with our authentic. The traditional definition of success is outward facing. It's about how the world perceives us, how impressive our job title sounds, how big our house is, or how many followers we have online. Yet external success is often hollow if it doesn't align with our inner value. How many people achieve everything they thought they wanted only to feel unfulfilled? Truth is, success that's dictated by others' expectations will never satisfy us because it doesn't come. True success begins with introspection. It requires asking ourselves difficult but essential questions. What truly matters? What kind of life do I want to live? What values do I want to embody? These answers will vary for everyone, but they often point to things money and status can't buy. Meaningful relationships, personal growth, a sense of purpose, and the joy that comes from being present. When we measure success by these internal metrics, it becomes less about what we and more about how we live. Redefining success also means acknowledging that it looks different for everyone. For some, success might mean climbing the corporate ladder and leading a Fortune 500 company. For others, it might mean working a modest job that allows them the time and energy to nurture their family, pursue creative passions, or contribute to their community. Neither path is inherently better than the other. What matters is whether it aligns with what brings joy and meaning to the individual. So, success isn't a one-size-fits-all concept. It's deeply personal and should be shaped by our unique dreams, values, and circumstances. So, another important aspect of redefining success is understanding that it's not a destination, but a journey. Society often frames success as something we achieve after years of hard work. A point in the future where everything will finally fall into place. Life doesn't work that way. Success isn't a single moment. It's a series of choices and actions that reflect our values and priorities. It's found in the process of living authentically, not in waiting for some future milestone to validate. We must also be willing to let go of the idea that success is tied solely to productivity or accomplishment. In a culture that glorifies busyness, it's easy to equate doing more with being more successful. But success isn't about how much we do. It's about the impact and meaning of what. It's about creating a life that feels rich and fulfilling, even if it doesn't look impressive on the outside. One of the most liberating aspects of redefining success is that it frees us from the constant pressure to compare ourselves to others. When we define success on our own terms, we no longer need to measure up to someone else's idea of what it looks like. We can focus on what truly matters to us, rather than what society says should matter. This shift allows us to celebrate others' achievements without feeling diminished, and to pursue our own path with clarity and confidence. Ultimately, redefining success is about shifting from external validation to internal. It's about living a life that feels aligned with who we are, not who we're told. When we measure success by our ability to live authentically, cultivate meaningful relationships, and make a positive impact on the world, however small, we find a deeper, more lasting sense of satisfaction. True success isn't about reaching a pinnacle. It's about creating a life that reflects our values and brings us genuine happiness. And when we embrace this perspective, we stop chasing success and start living.